live again for another Weekly Report. So thanks for watching. My name is Austin.
And my name is Patrick.
And guys, as always, welcome to our show.
Yeah, we got AVT and PAT. They talking about young Americans overseas. We got McKinney, Pulisic, Reina, and Des. Got that red, white, and blue. USA on the crest from England, Germany, from Belgium to Spain. Racking up all the medals on the trophy train. Got one thing on their mind. We're scaling some love. One day we can say we will win the World Cup.
All right, and thank you again, guys, for joining us tonight. We, if you watched our episode last week, we actually have a special episode coming out a little bit later this week. So we wanted to make things simple on our end and just do another live, weekly report because there's a lot to talk about, right, Pat? We had a lot of goals scored this weekend. Oh, yeah. We also have some really interesting transfer situations, not the best situations, but nonetheless, we got to talk about those. So yeah, it's an interesting time in our fandom.
It is an interesting time, and I think like you said, stay tuned midweek for that awesome episode, guys. We're collaborating with some fantastic USMNT creators there in the community, so we're really excited about that, and just interacting with you all on the live streams are fantastic. So again, shoot us with any questions as we go through what happened the past midweek and this weekend, and like you said, Austin, the transfer speculation drama as the window, rapidly approaches here and closes, I should say. And then all of our attackers just doing big things in Europe. Everybody, again, trying to, climb that plane. They're sprinting down the runway, Austin, trying to book that ticket to Qatar.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like that looming, presence, right? The selection of that Qatar roster is really kind of spurring on a lot of these storylines. So, I think without further ado, Pat, maybe I'm going to throw it to you so we can start it off here.
Yeah. And I don't know why when you said that, I thought about Freddie Adu, TBT. But yeah, nonetheless, let's get back to it. Haji Wright. So he is the first topic on here. Of course, we have to start with a number 9, an attacker, right? Haji Wright doing tremendous things for Antalyaspor. Did I come close to that, Austin?
I think that was pretty good. Yeah,
not bad. Still working on it, guys. So cut me some slack. But yeah, he scored brace and played very well in a pretty brutal 5-2 loss, though, against I think it was Gaziantep, who I believe is number 2 right now in the league. So they're having a strong start to the season. But Antalyaspor's defense is very shaky. Pretty sporadic, but nonetheless, Haji's getting his chances here. So, yeah, you could see some of his goals in the highlights, right? Fantastic finisher, anticipating the runs and crosses, putting himself in best spots between the lines and defenders. Nothing new there, especially an incredible start here in Turkey. He's really just made the headlines there, taking that 9 position. He is the focal point of this team. Although they sit in 10th place, Austin, in the Turkish Super League, Haji's putting up some pretty incredible numbers. So, yeah, you can't really go anywhere on Twitter or any news without hearing Haji Wright and his goal record to start, and even previously, when he was back on loan. So, all in all, it's been a great start to the season so far. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, he's honestly one of the most informed strikers right now for us. So, that's great. And I think it's really positive to see his growth over the past year, right? So that's good. I'm just still not sure if he's going to be, on this Qatar roster. I think
I want to hear this.
Yeah. Well, I think it's interesting. I think the more we see of him, the more, we see some of his strengths and some of his weaknesses. There were some questions that were raised on Twitter about, his hold-up play. Obviously, he's not the most physically imposing striker, right? He has the body frame for it, but he's not that type of player. So I think it's been really interesting kind of seeing some of these goals he's scoring, because I think one of the criticisms I actually called out on Twitter over the weekend or even before the weekend was a lot of his goals are the rollers on the ground, right? You don't really see him have much variance in how he scores. And again, he's scoring goals right now. So, maybe I'm trying to make an issue out of nothing, but I think my concern about him is maybe there's not enough variability in his game, and you know, in a level or a step up in a World Cup, maybe that you know, won't lend itself to be useful on a roster of, you know, only 3 strikers, right? It's probably going to be 3 strikers selected for the
Right.
World Cup. So I'm not so sure, you know, he's going to be one of those 3. But I'm curious to hear what you guys have to say in the comments, and you as well, Pat.
Yeah, I think I'm just reading here, and thanks for joining, Sam and H Hus there. Yeah, some unique thoughts there. Looks like you obviously talk about Sargent. We'll get to that as well. You know, strong start there, and then Sam mentioned that he is pretty sure he will be because he fits the attributes of the system, Greg's system. So yeah, that's interesting. And I think if you're referring to Haji, I also though share the same concerns that Austin mentioned. He is knocking in goals, right? And that's the striker's job. That's the number one job, which is fair to him. And I'm all for, you know, even the September camp, getting another crack, seeing what he can do in training, you know, with these friendlies. I have no problem with that. But I do echo the same concerns that you mentioned, Austin, where you're watching some of his duels, which he actually did okay in this past game, but you know, duels there, his hold up play, linking in terms of what Greg is asking his striker to do. Some of those are a concern where, again, I don't think he will start any games if he were to go to Qatar by all means, but even coming off the bench, I feel like, you know, if I'm watching the game as a fan, right, and I see Haji coming in, we need a goal the last 80, 85th minute, I personally wouldn't feel as confident as opposed to some of the other guys that we have, you know, that we can get into down the line. So I guess my concern is I just don't know if I trust him, you know, to come in and be that, you know, impact guy, even kind of a, you know, a fringe player.
Yeah, and I have to say, I do agree with Sam. I do think he fits Greg Berhalter's system, or at least fits it better than someone like you know, Pifak, right? Jordan Pifak, Theo's son, Jordan Savachu, however we're supposed to refer to him now, because, you know, Pifak's more of like a, you know, that out and out brute poacher, right? He's not someone who you know, we've seen it a little bit this year, but like track back, combine in midfield. That's something that Haji actually has in his game. And again, Haji is not one of those, you know, physical players. He's not someone who's just going to stand in the box and wait for the ball to come to him. He does have some mobility. And the other criticism against him too is he's just not a great header of the ball too. So I guess those are where my concerns are rooted, is just the fact that he does provide some of what Greg Berhalter looks for, but again, I just don't think he has all the skills or the qualities that maybe some of our other striker options, you know.
But hey, let him prove us wrong. Right? Let him prove us wrong. I want to see more in September. There's still a shot. He's delivering, Austin. Again, maybe you're looking at the coefficient in the Turkish Super League is not very. It's dropped. We've talked about the Greek Super League as well. That's another league that they're both kind of trending downwards. You know, if you're looking top to bottom, and even at some of the top few teams, you know, the Besiktas's and Fenerbahce's and stuff, they had some pretty good talent maybe 5, 6, 7+ years ago, and they've really declined, you know, financially, and just the gaps are closing, you know, or not closing. The gaps are just getting farther and farther. They're getting wider compared to some of the other leagues here across Europe. So it's hard to compare, but hey, he's found a great place. We know his story, right? You know, I won't get too much into that. But I'm rooting for Haji, and I think he still deserves another crack here before, you know, the official roster drop of Qatar.
Yeah, and I agree with what you said earlier, Pat. I think that he should be one of the strikers called up in September. You know, I think, again, we should call up, you know, all the players that we're kind of, you know, trying to figure out that pecking order in, right? So, you know, Jesus Ferreira, I think, you know, Pifak should be called up. Haji Wright should be called up. Josh Sargent should be called up. It would be great to even have like Ricardo Pepi in this camp, even without his, you know, lack of form for the past 6 to 8 months. But
only strikers, Austin. Nobody else called up.
Yeah, only strikers. Hey, there was a point in time where we had, you know, no striking options. So it's good to at least have some strikers, you know, performing, right, and in form. So I think that's a great segue into our next topic for today, and that's another striker. Surprise, surprise. So now we're going to talk about Josh Sargent.
I'm hitting the button with you, Austin.
Sorry. Josh Sargent continuing that hot form, right? So over the weekend, Norwich City, had a game. Josh Sargent started at striker again and scored, 4 goals in 3 games. Again, just looked like a much more confident player, right? That's been the theme of some of these highlights we've seen with Josh Sargent the past few games. We're seeing him, use that dynamism that he has, right, and that frame and physicality he plays with to his advantage. And again, this goal came off of him arriving in the box at a great time. This was a tough game for Norwich, right? They were, tied, I think, through around 60 minutes or so, and they really were struggling to score. This was against Sunderland. So, our boy Gucci Bra over there playing for the boys who used to be playing in League One. But this was, a really tough game for them. And Josh Sargent scored in the 76th minute and, had some chances kind of earlier in the game, but, didn't lose his nerve, didn't get too, worked up and kind of lose that confidence. He stuck with it and again, made a great run into the box and scored a good goal on the day. And I think that's really been the theme over these last few games is just Josh Sargent believing in himself again. And again, we always talk about this, right? I don't think his struggles were physical. I think they were more mental. So the fact that now he has that confidence back underneath him, he's playing his natural position. I think, again, the sky's the limit for him. I really do.
Yeah, I agree. And I think, again, and not wishing injury upon anybody, right? But some of those factors do provide those openings for chances, and Josh has certainly taken that. Obviously, we know Pukki's absence, right? He's kind of returned there, and it was interesting to see them on the field together, right? And still Sargent making an impact, but along with him, and then I believe there was another attacker who is short to return here. I think it's Adam Ida, and So with Pukki and Ida coming back, the coach has mentioned and said Sargent's really impressed. He's taken his chances very well, but he's going to have to continue to prove himself, keep up that high level because those guys are, again, knocking on the door. They're coming back. So it'll be interesting to see how that, with those guys integrating back in the squad, how that works. If Sargent will continue to start, I hope he does, and he doesn't get shifted out to the wing and some of those other positions he's played, right? Because he's really impressed, and what we all knew along Austin, he thrives in that number 9 spot.
Yeah, and I think honestly, he's become that consistent scorer for them, and I think I said this last week as well, or maybe the week before. But Norwich were struggling to score goals before the last few games, right? They really didn't start the season off hot, and they kind of went to him, yes, because of the injuries, but also because none of their other strikers were contributing, and they were really, struggling to score goals. So I think, again, this is a byproduct of him just taking his opportunity when it came to him. And he's making the most of it. Now, Pat, obviously we got to do this, right? We always try and project out just because of the fun of it, right? So, we talked about Haji Wright's chances of making the roster for Qatar. In this present moment, obviously before the transfer windows closed, we still have, plenty of games up until the September, international window. Do you see Josh Sargent being in Greg Berhalter's plans for, 2022 here?
You know what? I do see him in his plans. And I think, again, this is a guy who's going to get a shot in September. I'd be very shocked if he did. And I think he is just finally found himself. He has his confidence back. I think these recent string of games and performances will just really, push him to succeed and motivate him to, get into that September camp there and then, onto the plane to Qatar. Now, I'm not saying he's going to be a lock for Qatar, but I think that's somebody that's right on the fringes there that we could certainly strongly consider. The championship is still a very, very strong league, even though it is second division when you're comparing it to other leagues across. And he's performing. This is a team that should have the aspirations. It would be a complete failure if they weren't going up to the Premier League again.
This team is definitely strong enough to go up.
Yeah, yeah. So I think, yeah, and to your point, I think he should be in consideration. A great headache for Greg to have all of these options because Sargent was the original guy, Austin, and then he kind of fell off, right? And everybody forgot about him. But we know the skills that he has, the ability, his link up play, his tenacity, his pressing, all the things that Berhalter also, wants to see in a striker and attacker.
Yeah.
Why he was that first option. So it's great to see him back on track, and this could prove really great timing.
Yeah, I fully agree with you, Pat. I think, yeah, for all those reasons you just listed, I think he makes a lot of sense for Greg Berhalter. And again, he may not be the starting striker going into Qatar. I think September is really going to kind of better influence that decision for Greg. But again, I think he's definitely earned himself another opportunity, right? And if he can take advantage of an opportunity with the U.S. men's national team, like he did at Norwich City here this past month, then I think, yeah, the sky's the limit for him. And I really do think that a plane ticket to Qatar is wholly possible. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think another guy, it looks like we're continuing a string of attackers here, strikers, Austin. Another guy who, honestly, I want to hear your thoughts. I think he's very, very close, if not already booked his ticket. I think it's going to be hard to say no at this point, right? And that is Jordan Pefok. And if you all haven't seen the interviews there, I think on Football Americas, it was really interesting to hear. He doesn't really care. He's like, you call me whatever you guys want to call me. But just kind of the reasoning behind, Pefok and his relationship, how close he was with his mother and things like that. I think that was a really neat story. So make sure you check that out. But, I'm going to stick with Pefok, Austin.
That's fair.
Yeah. So, yeah, obviously Union Berlin dominated Schalke 6-1. It was a pretty brutal beatdown, and Pefok in this game recorded 2 assists. And what I found interesting was he only had 15 touches. So of the 15 middle touches, right, starting the game, 2 assists. So, hey, maybe he's not involved in the build-up or involved as you'd like to see, and that's kind of another concerning part, right? Maybe Pefok is lacking some of those attributes to get back or link up play and get a little bit more involved, right, in the build-up where Berhalter might want his attackers to be or strikers to be. Nonetheless, goals and assists, if you're doing it, similar argument to Haji, he's being very productive and efficient, hard to leave off. He, again, had the 4 chances created there, the highest foot mob rating there, 8.3 with the group, and Union Berlin is off to a flying start. They play Bayern next. I'm really curious, actually, to see how that match goes, because really nobody else is that close right now. So I don't know, Austin, what are your thoughts on Pefok's flying start here and even just a minimal 15 touches?
Yeah, I know. It's kind of interesting looking at those stats because on FootMob, his expected assists was 0.24. And he came on the day with 2. So,
okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's just really interesting to see how he's taken to life in Berlin, right? He's really just used that confidence from last year. And again, we talked last week about culture, right? He's gone to a team that has a specific culture that he's really just been able to kind of, assimilate right into. And Union Berlin, you make the joke that Bayern don't have any competition. I mean, Union Berlin are right there with them, right, on 10 points.
Seriously.
So, yeah, this coming week, Saturday, should be an amazing game, right? It should be really cool to see. But yeah, I think the question that was raised earlier in the show is, does Pefok fit what Greg's looking for? If there's some other options now, right? You got Josh Sargent, who's doing well and probably fits his system better than Pefok. Got Jesus Ferreira, who fits the system probably better than Pefok in Greg's mind.
Agreed.
Maybe Haji Wright does, right? We already talked about him having maybe some better qualities that suit what Greg Berhalter is looking for. And then you have Ricardo Pepi too, kind of just out there as well, kind of in the wilderness, right? So, as much as Jordan Pefok has performed this year, I guess, do you see, Pat, Greg kind of going a different direction? I know it's hard to really project that, but just to think about it a little more, try and get inside Triple G's mind.
It's so hard, Austin. I really am dying to know. I want to be like a fly on the wall in his backroom staff there.
Mm-hmm.
It's really hard to say. My personal opinion, I don't see how you leave him off the roster, Qatar. I'm going that bold. Now he's not going to start. I don't think he's going to start. He is a player, as you see, he got subbed out even in this game for Union Berlin. He kind of fades after a certain amount of time. You know, if you're talking after 60, 70 minutes and you need somebody, right, pushing maybe for that last burst, last 10, 15 minutes, I don't think Pifoc's that guy. So as much, you know, if he's able to create something out of nothing, only having 15 touches here or there or a few touches to make an impact, I think I've mentioned it before on this show, you have to bring him as maybe he doesn't fit the system per se, but if you need to change something else, things get hectic, you need a goal, 10, 15, even 20 minutes plus to go. This is your number one attacker, I think. Maybe not number one or two attacker, number 9 off the bench if you need to shake things up. So I think in that sense, in that role that he has, I don't think he's going to be a starter for the system in this team, but he plays such a pivotal key component in terms of, yeah, exactly. Sam mentioned a situational sub. I think he's locked that position into Qatar. So what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I really think he makes a lot of sense, again, for a different perspective. And I see Sam here says he's a situational sub. Yep. You're chasing a goal in the last 30. I don't think Pifoc ever goes full 90 because he gasses out. Yeah, I mean, I really believe that's kind of his role with this team, right? And I think
not a bad thing.
Yeah, we need some of that, right? We need a different look for teams to be cognizant of, right? And you know, later on in games, right, we need to change our approach. So if we have strikers in the same mold, right, if we, you know, have a Josh Sargent and then bring on a Jesus Ferreira, is it really a different look for us? I know they, you know, have some difference to their games, right? I'm not sitting here saying they're, you know, cookie cutter of the same type player, but again, I don't think there's another striker, to be completely honest, right? We just went through it. That kind of brings Pifoc's abilities. Maybe Daryl DK, but you know, he's still not healthy, and you know, probably it's going to take a little bit to kind of get him back in form. Maybe not enough time before the World Cup. So yeah, that's kind of why I think Pifoc, you know, should be that situational sub and no brainer on this team.
Yeah, completely agree. And you're actually even seeing, you know, which I really like is some of the other. You could tell he's really improved. If you look back in the stats and even this year and how he's translated the Bundesliga, he's getting back a little bit, you know, defensively. If you're watching the game, he's you know, challenging for 50-50s. He's, involved in kind of link ups and these nice little flicks and touches. And the assist too is something that's really interesting to see because again, he was getting a little bit with the Swiss Super League and Young Boys. But it was goals, right? You know, his heading goals and seeing these other ways that he can impact, you know, assist-wise, and just he was really kind of playing bully ball with the Schalke center backs from what I was reading. So it's good to see him working on those improvements and that maybe he has a little bit of flexibility in his game or more than we think. So, yeah, I think, like you said, not to continue to harp and echo on this, but you need a different look. You can't have 4 or 5 of the same guys. If you look at all the other top teams, right, the different striking, attacking options, your Englands, your Brazil, you know, all the other, you know, strikers, right, or nines that they have, you know, they have different players that fit different styles. So it really depends. And I think it's back on Greg to be a little bit more flexible and adaptable and not just kind of stay with that one kind of plan A per se.
Yeah, which again, we've seen a little bit of him being flexible, but in my opinion, not as much as, you know, I hoped we would have seen in, you know, this part of his tenure, right, or at this time in his tenure. So we'll have to kind of see what happens. But again, in looking at another position where we have some options, right, that's kind of the outside backs, right? We kind of you know, have some options available, and I think the September roster will better influence who of those options will make it to Qatar. So right now we want to talk about Joe Scally and his performance versus Bayern Munich. So again, Bayern Munich have been coming out of the gates hot this season, right? Not surprising. They're obviously still the best team in the Bundesliga, even without Robert Lewandowski, which is kind of, you know, crazy to me. But
Austin, did you see that goal that he had for Barcelona?
Oh my goodness, for Barca, yeah, it was very nice. You know, stretching out that far, yeah, it was pretty cool. So yeah, we just wanted to, you know, kind of, you know, inform you guys. So obviously Joe Scally started in this game, went the full 90, and Gladbach were able to pull out the 1-1 draw. Now, they were ahead for most of this game, right? They were up on Bayern 1-0. Unfortunately, Bayern pulled 1 goal back late, but overall, I thought Joe Scally looked pretty confident in this game, right? I don't think there were too many mistakes from him from some of the game that I was able to watch, and I don't think he played out of his mind in this game. I think that game last year at the beginning of the season, where I think Gladbach beat Bayern maybe 4-0, he looked really good in that game and really kind of stepped his game up a level. But this year, not exactly the same type of game, but I think it's worth mentioning that, again, they were able to get a result versus Bayern. He's now started all 4 of Gladbach's games to begin this year. So there was some question going into the season about whether he was going to be a starting, outside back for them, or whether or not he was going to have to kind of start the season on the bench. And I think he's really shown out of the gate that he is, starting quality in the Bundesliga for a team that's trying to, again, climb up that ladder this year and finish in or around, a Europa League position, Champions League position, maybe. And I think so far so good for Joe Scally in Germany this season, Pat.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're seeing drastic improvements game by game, and going against the best in the Bundesliga. That's no easy task. I mean, Mane did burn him a few times, but that's expected. Everyone's going to get burned by Mane. He's amazing.
All right, you Liverpool stan. All right.
I miss him. Austin. But nonetheless, and everybody else that they have. I mean, Bayern had 20-something plus shots.
Jan Sommer was incredible.
Yeah, it was all over the place. Great experience for Scally, being bombarded like that from the back line. Some of it was reactionary still, so just something to kind of look on in terms of improvements. Was actually able to catch some of the In Soccer We Trust podcast with Charlie Davies and Heath and Jimmy Conrad. It's really interesting if you guys haven't checked that out. But Charlie Davies had something that resonated with me, that with Scally playing more in terms of his confidence, right, and playing kind of more, again, reactionary on the back end of things, and maybe not fully confident in himself yet, in terms of not wanting to take risks and playing kind of a little bit more safe, or afraid to make a mistake. So I found that kind of interesting, and I wanted to, again, if you in the chat disagree with that, or also if you have any thoughts, I think he's certainly working to improve, especially from that last, the game against Uruguay and some of the mistakes he had there, which he admitted in an interview, which is interesting. I don't know. I thought that comment was interesting. And I still think he needs a little bit more game time under him, but somebody that I still think might have a shot at this roster, and 2026 looking, very strong for it. But what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I thought that was a really interesting quote too, because and Sam even says it here too. Yeah, he echoes it. Totally agree, and I think it's fair. I think he has gotten a little bit more consistent, I would say, this year. Although it's hard to say for me, because I think last year there was, times where he looked really good and competent on the pitch and playing above his age level. And then there's other times in games where he just, would make these really bad decisions and get caught out. And, you saw that in that Uruguay game, right? It was kind of very, it was a microcosm of what I think I saw last season in watching him. And obviously this year, we're just getting started, right? 4 games is not too much of a sample size, but I think this year, I've seen a little bit of growth. And honestly, I think the biggest reason why Joe Scally makes a lot of sense on the World Cup roster is because of his flexibility, right? He can play both sides of the formation. He can also play, in a more advanced role if we go to a 3 center back system, and kind of want to play even more defensive, right, with 5 at the back. So I don't know. I think in terms of experience, I agree with you, Pat. I think he needs to grow more. I think maybe in terms of experience, I think maybe this World Cup is a little too soon for him. But when you think about some of the other options we have, especially, again, I think people are underrating how Serginho Dest is not going to be in the best form of his life. And not to say Joe Scally is going to be our starter at right back, but I think we need to, I don't know. I think we need to evaluate all of our options. So that's kind of where I'm at, Pat. Hopefully that makes some sense.
Yeah. No, I think you're right, though, because Yeah, him and along with other players, which I don't want to go down that rabbit hole quite yet, but yeah, he's getting game time. He's one of the few players that's I shouldn't say few actually, but one of the players that maybe isn't part of that core, right? That has that kind of guaranteed ticket to Qatar that's actually playing,
Right.
game in and game out. So the more he gets, the more reps, it's only going to get better. And again, Gladbach's a solid team. So I think that's saying a lot, like you said, to be in that starting position, and hopefully he'll be able to kind of break out of that shell there, feel a little bit more comfortable moving forward. Again, Bayern, it's hard to judge off one game, and again, that's a team I'm sure every defender would be maybe not the most confident in, right? Going forward and then having to recover from that, attacking threat that they have. So, yeah, all in all, though, he did make some pretty good tackles there, some nice kind of sliding saves, and against Davies too. When Alfonso Davies, a little Concacaf rivalry,
Yeah.
when he got up too, he held his own. He didn't look completely like a fish out of water, and again, going back to that Uruguay game, and he mentioned that he understood he, had a bad game. He really kind of proved the last time in camp and picked it up there. And Greg knows what he's able to do, I guess, behind the scenes in training. So, yeah, I'm all for I'm still on that Scally train, and I wouldn't be up in arms. I'd be happy to see him on the roster. I think that'd be a great learning experience for him.
Yeah, and I think again September will kind of influence what that outside back situation looks like, and who's really in the mix, right? I think if he's on that roster, then he's got every chance to make the World Cup. But if he's not even on that September roster, then I wouldn't hold your breath unless some players don't stand out and play too well. So
defer to September, Austin. Defer to September.
Yeah. September is going to be super important to influence all of these decisions and projections. So with that, I'll throw it to our last topic of the day, to you, Pat.
Yeah, and this is an interesting one with Jordi Mihalovic joining AZ Alkmaar. Right, obviously that's been discussed here. The past week or so, and yeah, I think it's effective January 1st. So I think this is a great move for him to test the waters. And what I like about it is maybe it's not directly going to La Liga or the Bundesliga or even the EPL, right? I'm sure he had some other kind of offers in the pipeline, but this is a great league for developing, the technical side of the game with, a team that's kind of in that Europa, right? Champions League playoff kind of contention, in that space, in the top 4 or 5 in the Eredivisie, being able to test himself there and then potentially springboard up or stay here. It's a very solid league. Altidore had a great stint, and if you saw that video that AZ put out with that interesting acting, I would say.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's just funny, the connection, and nonetheless, Altidore had a really impactful time there, and I think this is a great opportunity for him. The injury was tough in terms of the USMNT timing and just his timing in MLS and how he's been killing it, right, the past year and a half or so. So I think this is a logical next step.
Yeah, and the other player that was in one of their videos that they put out was Aaron Johansson, who
that's right,
also played very well for AZ. So yeah, I think this was a great move for him. I really think, like you said, Pat, it's the perfect next step up. This is a team that's fighting for the top 4 or 5 in the Eredivisie, and again, we'll play with a lot of possession. Will allow him to again make that transition to Europe, kind of get his feet wet in a situation where he should be one of their main guys, right? Like he should be a starter when he joins this team in January. Or at least that should be his goal, right? He's going to have competition, but I think this is a level where he can definitely try and slide in, day one and really be a difference maker for the team. So again, I'm not so sure he's going to make the World Cup roster this year. And I think the injury that happened at the beginning of the summer is really a big part of that, right? We didn't really get to see him this summer with the USMNT. And I think that's really going to kind of hurt him going into, this final roster selection, right? Maybe in September he gets a look. and again, maybe he shows out and takes that opportunity. But I think for right now, the players that we have, unless there's some injuries or something where, some form dips, some other situation happens that we're not, aware of right now. I'm not sure if he's gonna be one of those guys going to Qatar. So
Yeah, it's tough to say. I'm hoping, or maybe not hoping. I'm a little bit more optimistic.
okay,
I think he's going to get a crack here in September. So get ready.
okay,
You might see
that's
him
fair.
there. And maybe he'll impress in training and squeak in maybe the expanded roster, the last few spots there. Although he hasn't had much time at all with the team. He had that stint a while back where wasn't maybe the best. But yeah, I think this is a great move. He had that tough injury spell in that back, but yeah, I think they're crying out, right? Azad is crying out for a playmaker there that can bring, I think, what is it, Pavlidis there and DeWitt more into the position where they can score goals. So that's something that they've been dying for. I think he was 1 or 2 on their transfer shortlist and targets. So seems like a match made in heaven. And yeah, I'm very curious, and I want to get in the mind of Triple G there, Berhalter. Because that's another player that has the adaptability or flexibility to be in kind of that creator role and could shift, outside as well as kind of centrally, up top in midfield, depending on the formations. But yeah, from what I saw in MLS before the injury, especially, it just seems like such a unique player that could be in consideration. But maybe I'm dreaming too much, Austin. Maybe it's more for 2026 if he has a really strong few years here, springboards up into a top 4 league, or again, is kind of the star of this team, right? And he's in Europa or Champions League playoffs for 2026. So maybe I'm thinking too optimistic there.
Yeah, I was gonna say, well, we already have Christian Roldan, who's the glue guy, so
he's injured. He's injured.
Gotta leave. Yeah, that's true. That's true, actually. To say he has to be on that plane to Qatar, so that's one spot.
The vibes. I think Jordy seems like he seems like a jokester. He might have some good vibes there.
Yeah, that's true. He does have a good personality. He is someone that could bring a really interesting dynamic to the locker room. So, yeah, I think again that's all for this part of our episode. Now it's time to head over to our favorite part of the episode, and that's quick kicks.
All right, guys. Some heavy hitters here for quick kicks. Some good, some bad, but going with some kind of important storylines. Just key things to watch here as we head to that September window. Number 1 here on my list here for quick kicks, Austin. Top priority, Serginho Dest. That is concerning, right? It looks like, seeing some rumors here, that he wants to fight for his place, stay at Barcelona, and unless something surprising happens, he'll kind of stay, reassess his case later. You saw that Instagram of him training in who knows what tunnel of Camp Nou, Spotify Camp Nou, or a basement of some sorts. He's putting in the shifts. He's putting in the hours. He wants to force himself back into Xavi's plans. But it sounds like from Fabrizio Romano and a lot of speculation out there that Xavi doesn't want him. So I don't know what to think of it. I think he needs to get pardon my language, get the heck hell out of there. It's just a disaster for him, especially with the World Cup coming up. I know he loves Barcelona, but man, he just needs to get out of there, Austin.
Yeah, and it sounds like I think there was a report this week that they're planning to not even dress him for games. And I know, the game this weekend that they played, he wasn't on the bench, but I think there was communication from Xavi to him basically telling him that if he stayed for the fall here, that he wouldn't even see the field basically. So yeah, I mean that's definitely not good, right? We just talked about his form going into the World Cup. I mean, the man hasn't really gotten any consistent game time for a long time now. Like even in the spring, he wasn't getting real consistent game time. So yeah, I think Dortmund's been rumored out there. Man United was rumored early in the summer. I really don't know what to do for him, Pat. I think it's pretty clear now that Barca is really not the smart decision. That's the decision it sounds like he wants to make with his heart, but I think his head needs to take over in this situation and kind of, evaluate his options this next week and kind of pick his best one. And maybe it's a loan. And again, he can go somewhere, come back and prove himself again. But I think staying there right now is really foolish personally.
Oh, yeah. There's got to be something going on that we don't know about. I don't know. It just seems so odd, man. Come on, guys. Wake up. But moving on to, I guess, another concerning news. And this is surprising on the attacking front. My number 2 here on the list of quick kicks, Ricardo Pepi. The disastrous Augsburg. Looks like it is very similar to the Werder Bremen Sargent disaster. He got the start, Austin, but was subbed out in the 50-something minute, maybe 10 minutes into the second half, which very concerning. And again, it was great to see him hand the first Bundesliga start, but couldn't make much of it. And really not to his fault. The team's a total disaster. It's a dumpster fire, to say the least. And very, very concerning, where you could almost make the case you wouldn't be surprised to see Pepi not part of the trip to Qatar, even though he's so talented. He offers so much, but this is just a really, really bad situation.
Yeah, and I was going to say there's also rumors about Augsburg looking at another striker before the window closes. So, they already have Demirovic, they have Lechner, right? Another striker. So, yeah, I mean, it's just not going to plan, right? Like the big money move sounded great. And I think, again, it was necessary to grow the league, grow MLS. But I said this a few weeks ago too on Twitter. I think Bayern Munich was the smarter move. Obviously, FC Dallas had to agree to it as well, which it sounds like they weren't on board with. But, he could have been getting garbage time minutes last year, maybe scoring a few goals, playing with a lot of possession. But now, I mean, like you said, Augsburg is just like Bremen, or it feels like that same situation where they have no consistent possession, right? It's really tough. They really just don't help themselves.
You know what? I hope they do get a striker and then loan him out somewhere else.
Yeah, honestly, loan move. If I'm him, I'm pushing for a loan move, to be completely honest. Like, get me the heck out of there, whether it's Switzerland, whether it's another Bundesliga team that's interested, back to MLS, honestly, like, seriously. At some point, he's just got to take his future into his own hands.
The club's a disaster, Austin. But I digress. My last topic here, number 3, Yunus Musa. If you all didn't see today, we're filming 29th Monday. He had just a screamer. You have to check out this highlight. I mean, it was so unfortunate that there was a foul on the previous build-up of the play and it didn't count. It came up on FootMob, and I was like, come on, really? We didn't count it, but they ended up losing to Atletico Madrid 1-0 as well, which is tough. But nonetheless, Musa put in, I think, one of the higher ratings, highest rating player on the team there in FootMob, and had a really great performance against Atletico Madrid, who's a top team in La Liga. So, yeah, great to see him continue to get starts. It just seems like he's getting robbed of that goal. Or just crossbars or offsides or fouls. Maybe it's a curse, but nonetheless, he's playing pretty incredible football right now.
Yeah, and there was also some chatter on Twitter outside of our little, USMNT sphere about his level of play today. There's a lot of people who, that was the first time seeing him in action, and people were really impressed with the qualities he offers. So I thought that was really cool. So I have a few quick kicks today as well. So the first one, again, like the Dest situation, is Christian Pulisic's situation. It sounds like now he's going to stay at Chelsea. It sounds like he doesn't really like any of the other options that were presented to him, which, again, we're not exactly sure what they were, but I personally think it's the right move. It feels wrong.
Oh, you think it's the right move? Okay.
Yeah, I was going to say it feels wrong maybe on first glance, but I think it's a lot different than the Dest situation, right? He's actually getting game time. He's usually that first sub off the bench. And again, like I said last week, I'm sticking by it because I really think, this is going to come to a head here, maybe even before the World Cup. But I think Thomas Tuchel is going to be leaving Chelsea at some point this season. I really do. I just think he's getting to that stage where he's that cranky coach. He's starting to he's not mincing his words. He's really just kind of agitating things and trying to push his team as hard as he can. And I just think at some point they're going to, the team's going to reach a breaking point. He's not going to be seen favorably anymore. And, management's going to make the decision they need to make. And again, I think I just don't want Christian Pulisic to lose that value before the World Cup. I think staying at Chelsea, just biding his time, getting some, playing time in each game, right? Again, he's getting some minutes each game. Again, kind of helps us in keeping him fresh for the World Cup. And also, it's selfish, but also keeping him on a team that's a high quality team, right? Chelsea are going to be competitors for many years to come. So, that was kind of one of my quick kicks. Do you have anything to add, Pat? Sorry, I feel like
No, I think you needed to go on with that as well, because I agree with you. I mean, I'm looking at the schedule right now. They have within the next week and a half with the Champions League so condensed with mid games here and midweek and weekend. They have 4 or 5 games in the span of 9 or 10 days. So
jeez,
it's pretty unreal, with the other competition. So he like you said, he's getting minutes off the bench. He's going to get some starts here with the condensed schedule here. And it looks like Tuchel, again, is not getting whatever he wants additionally for the transfer window. And he's going to have to rely on some of these guys. And Christian, training hard, right, is going to force his way in and get some good impact minutes here. Like you said, keeping fresh is very important. But hoping he can get some starts and some chances to pick up a little more momentum before Qatar.
Yeah, I fully agree. And my next quick kick. So again, this one, just another touch point, right? Brendan Aronson, Tyler Adams, we saw them go up against Brighton this past weekend. Not their best game. Leeds was really struggling to kind of, piece their play together, right? They seemed a little disjointed on the day. They put together some really good play in the second half. I think they really took it to Brighton. But unfortunately, they conceded a goal. And again, both of Tyler Adams and Brendan Aronson had some giveaways, things like that. So, we'll see what happens this weekend. And just kind of wanted to touch on that real quick. And then the last one too. So another pair of Americans playing for the same team. That's James Sands and Malik Tillman. So, both were part of helping them secure Champions League group stage play, which is really exciting. So we're going to get to see both of them, in the Champions League this year. I think it was the first time that Rangers has been in the Champions League since what, Pat? Wasn't it 2007, 2009? It's been a
while,
long time. So that was pretty cool to see. And this weekend they go up against Celtic in the Old Firm Derby. So
Greg will be there.
What's that?
He's going to be there.
Oh, okay. There you go. So, Greg will get a first row or first class seat to that game there. So we'll see, hopefully CCV versus James Sands and Malik Tillman. So
yeah. He has to do the Tillman challenge too.
Yeah, that's what we need to get. We really do need to get a video of him doing that. That's very true. So yeah, that's all the quick hits I had for today. I see we have a comment here. Let me read it here. So Augsburg plays without a 9. Pepe is being developed in the same role as Sargent at Norwich. Only Josh is doing it better. Sorry for Pepe, beat Honduras in 45 minutes and sent the USMNT to Qatar. Yeah, so I think, again, that's, again, making light that, Josh is definitely playing better than Ricardo right now. But I think, again, Ricardo has so many great tools, right, Pat, that we can't, give up on him right now, right? His situation's not the best, but again, we're hoping something positive happens over the course of the year, whether that's a loan now, which would be awesome, but maybe a loan in the winter, just something to kind of get him restarted again, because he has that talent, right?
Yeah, he is a talent, and maybe, again, you can't compare this directly, right? But he did get a start. Now, he was pulled early. He's gotten a few minutes here or there. So at least he's not being completely iced out, for all games. And not even dressing like Serginho, just chilling, in the stands. So completely different situations, but nonetheless, right? He's still training, still getting minutes there. It's a really terrible situation that he needs to get out of, but you're right. He offers so much, and it would be really hard to leave him out, and somebody that maybe would really benefit, refresh in September. He had some time away from the group. Now I think it's good for him to get time away from Augsburg and come back to the USMNT in the camp in September.
Yeah, I think Yeah, we'll have to see what the future holds, and it's sure to be, interesting here in this next few
Yeah.
these next few months. So, yeah, I guess with that, thanks again for watching, guys. Today, make sure you like this video, subscribe to our channel down below, and thanks for commenting all video long.
Yeah, we appreciate the comments there, and don't forget Instagram, Twitter. We're always posting great content on our social media platforms and outlets there, especially as we get close to September camp, everything else going on. So stay tuned for more.
Yeah, and we got a lot coming up here. Like I said, this Wednesday, we're going to be dropping our special episode with Jay Hernandez, Justin Moran from Twitter. We're going to do our USMNT fantasy draft, or that's what the video is going to be. So keep an eye out for that. It's sure to be a lot of fun. I think all four of our teams are pretty competitive, and we kind of took a different slant with all of them. So it should be really fun.
Yeah, it's awesome. I think we had a great time doing it. You all love it. Please, Twitter there, YouTube in the comments, post your reactions, bragging rights for the rosters. And hey, maybe we'll do some other, awesome kind of mock drafts and other rosters, maybe best USMNT of all time or honor a certain age, right? Getting ready for the Olympics and things like that. There's so many different other roster drops. So we're just continuing with this group, for updates moving forward, Austin. So yeah, I'm really excited. I can't stop talking about it.
Yeah, so be on the lookout for that. And I think that leaves only one thing left to say for this episode, and that is one day we will win the World Cup.